Bedford Stuyvesant, a neighborhood in Brooklyn, New York, has long been known to be a predominantly black neighborhood. In fact, Bedford Stuyvesant, also known as Bed-Stuy, has been featured in rap videos, including videos done by Notorious B.I.G. Spike Lee's movie Do the Right Thing in 1989 was also filmed in Bed-Stuy. Bed-Stuy was known in the past for high crime rates, and many feared going through the neighborhood. Today, the faces of Bed-Stuy are changing. Many Bed-Stuy homes have been renovated. When one enters these homes, the colloquial name Bed-Stuy doesn't seem befitting. One now feels the need to call the whole name Bedford Stuyvesant. Because it is rapidly becoming an affluent neighborhood, many homes in the area are now worth millions post-renovation. Walking through the neighborhood, one sees new faces, primarily white faces.
At one time, people wouldn't come to Bedford Stuyvesant. You know what the young people say, do or die, Bed-Stuy.
Right.
Yeah, but now, it seems like everybody want to come back
To Bed-Stuy.
to Bed-Stuy.
So why do you think the influx of whites to the neighborhood, why do you think it's causing the influx?
You want me to be honest?
Yeah.
They're poor just like we are.
Wow.
That's right. See, living out in the suburbs costs a lot of money to come back to the city to work.
Oh, okay.
As long as you buy that A train, you can get anywhere you want. But I've noticed that buildings around the corner that used to have low-income black people in them now have quote-unquote upper-income white people.
Okay. So what do you think about the influx of whites to the neighborhood?
I don't think that that's the issue. Because I look at it and vice versa. If there's a lot of people, a lot of black people who move to the suburbs, and the white people can say the same thing, you know,
Right.
there goes the neighborhood.
Right.
We're constantly saying that there goes the neighborhood, so I don't necessarily look at it as a black and white thing. What I do look at it as it's almost impossible to just have a regular job, work very hard, and to live in Bed-Stuy with the influx of all these new businesses coming up and these new properties coming up. When I see a lot of buildings being renovated and I see a lot of new cafes opening up, I can't really appreciate it because all I know is it's going to affect my rent and it's going to push me out.
Right, eventually.
Eventually, yes.
As the neighborhood becomes more affluent.
Yeah, but again, it's not necessarily a white and black thing because again, I also grew up in the suburbs, and luckily I never had a face-to-face issue with racism or someone saying there goes the neighborhood.
Well, I think it's a very sad commentary because a lot of us who raised in Bed-Stuy are no longer able to afford to purchase homes or to rent apartments. So it's sad in the sense that people who've grown up, who've lived here, can't afford it anymore because of the influx of whites and others who come in with cash to buy homes and everything. It's unfortunate. I mean, first of all, let me just say I'm not against white people living in the neighborhood, but it's just that those of us who live here, who raised here, are not able to afford it. It's very sad.
Okay.
I am a victim of gentrification. I used to live on Malcolm X and Putnam. My landlord actually sold his property, and I believe he didn't necessarily tell me why he sold it, but I think it was more so for a hunger. He was hungry in terms of the money that he was proposed. I've only experienced black residents moving out of their apartments when they're being bought out. I don't know anyone personal who's been forced out, but unfortunately I know a lot of black residents that are being bought out don't necessarily know what they could possibly get for the property that they're being bought out from.
Right.
And a lot of times it's because of, you know, they look at the money and they look at it as that's the way out, or
Right.
they don't necessarily know what they're giving up.
Do you know of any blacks that have been forced to move out of their apartment?
Yes, I do. We do have, however, we do have some options. There are some affordable housing units within the Bed-Stuy community. The Bridge Street Development Corporation has helped some people who've had to move out, largely because they were living there, but then the owners sold the house to the white person, and then the people who were living there had no place to go. Yeah, so that has happened, but I'm happy to report that we do have some options for them within the community.
And what is the name of the group?
This is the Bridge Street Development Corporation is one group. 575 Hancock Street Housing Development also has affordable housing as well.
Okay.
That's a good question. You tell me. I know the ones that retired probably go back to where they were born. South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, stuff like that.
Well, some are moving south, some are moving out of the city entirely. Some are trying to live with relatives. You know, they're trying to come up with options.
What made you choose to move to Bedford Stuyvesant?
They had trees. The street is really nice.
You like the neighborhood,
Yeah.
the brownstones and
Sure.
everything? Okay, do you feel safe in the neighborhood?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like really tough. So.
You're funny. All right, how do you feel about your black neighbors?
Fine.
Fine, no
Yeah.
problem. Do you associate with them? Do you,
Yeah.
or is it like isolated? You
Yeah,
know?
I don't know.
Okay.
I have friends in the neighborhood, and I was living on Housley Street in Bushwick, so it's like straight
Not
that
that
way.
far.
Yeah.
And so your friends told you, hey, is this great over here? You know.
No, they were just over here, and like I wanted to live near friends because, yeah,
You just want to be among your friends. Do you feel safe in the neighborhood?
completely.
Completely. How do you feel about your black neighbors?
I don't know. I never really thought about my neighbors as black, but happy. I don't know.
I mean, do you feel like...
I tend to usually live in neighborhoods of people of color.
Okay.
Simply because I'm more comfortable with the community and cultural aspects that are in communities of color that aren't traditionally in white communities. I also have like a pretty Afrocentric outlook on the world. I did a master's degree in African studies. And so, you know, being in a neighborhood where the streets are named Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, is inspiring to things that I'm interested in.
Right.
And also to the communities that have inspired me.
Okay.
I've been following the changes that were happening over the past 5 years, and I've always wanted to live in the brownstone, and due to being priced out of Williamsburg, I feel like it was the next step.
Okay. And do you feel safe here in the neighborhood?
Yeah, I feel very safe.
Okay. Do you feel like you socialize with the black neighbors, or how do you feel about your black neighbors?
I think it's like hit or miss. Like it's like weird. I could just walk down one part of a block and feel very welcome, and then I feel like certain blocks there's just this like attitude of intimidation or something like that.
Right.
And, you know, a kind of unwelcoming vibe.
And you can tell the difference. Okay, why do you think that is? That they have like, some have that vibe?
I mean, I guess I understand. Maybe they're just afraid of the gentrification that's happening and the rate that it's happening at, and it's like I can't really blame them because I know that with a lot of these houses being bought, you know, and purchased, it's pushing people out of the neighborhood, and I can imagine that if I was in that situation, I might feel a little bit scared about what's next as well, you know?
Diversity is a great thing. However, the process of creating a more diverse neighborhood is the problem. The problem is that many of the original black residents have been forced out of their apartments in order to be replaced by new, mostly white tenants with more means. Black tenants of the lower economic class in Bedford Stuyvesant have been offered money to cover their moving expenses just so that they will move out of the newly renovated buildings. Some black residents have been back and forth to court just to stay in their rented apartments in which they have years of history and family memories. Is this the same trend that was experienced in Washington, D.C., in which white suburbia decided that they wanted to move into the city and bought out the black residents? Is Black America no more than nomads who must move at white America's financial whim? Historically, blacks have been poorer than whites in this country. Without economic power, one has no power. Some of the original black residents have been uprooted from their familiar dwellings and have been forced to move out in the name of gentrification. Is this process fair to the original black residents of Bedford Stuyvesant?
You can say the neighborhood is getting better, but it'd be very few black people around.
Okay.
Very few.
Okay, so what do you define as better? Is it lower crime rates, you think, now than before?
The crime rate is lower.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so would you say it's a positive thing for the faces to be changing in Bed-Stuy, or?
For those who can afford it, yes, it is positive. For those who can't, some lose, some win.
It's not going to be the same. I'm not going to be able to afford it. I plan on probably moving back to Philadelphia, where I'm originally from. But it just sucks. And I know that there's going to be a cap where people won't be able to afford it, and it's probably going to hurt a lot of businesses because all these buildings being built and all these renovations, and landlords just getting greedy. There's going to be a cap where businesses will not be able to survive, and landlords will have to keep dealing with the fact that they're revolving door of tenants because they just can't afford Bed-Stuy. So the future of Bed-Stuy, I have no idea what it's going to turn into.
What do you feel is the future of Bedford Stuyvesant?
I feel like it's just going to keep growing. It's such a beautiful, beautiful place.
Yeah.
And, I know that just over the past 4 years, like 4 or 5 years of looking myself, how before it's like, it was just something that a lot of people didn't even, like over like East Williamsburg, that area, they're just like, wait, where is that? And
And now everyone knows.
And it's just so pretty. It's like the kind of place that you can move and like raise a family and feel safe and like have a beautiful, beautiful home.
The future I see is that Bedford Stuyvesant is going to become more and more a white community, unless the legislators can take some action and provide more affordable housing for the people who live there.
Right.
The future, well, I think it's in the making, you know what I mean?
Right.
I don't think it's set in stone, and I just hope for all the people who are thinking about moving into the neighborhood, I hope we can be intentional about it and not simply be driven by the forces of economics and racial determinism.
Okay, so can you expound? Can you kind of elaborate on that, the last sentence?
Yeah, I think, I think what you're alluding to in terms of the changes in the neighborhood is gentrification and white people moving into the neighborhood.
Right.
All right. So I think a lot of the conversation around gentrification is racialized, and people of color continue to be subjectified through that conversation, and instead I would hope that as young people living in not just a Bedford Stuyvesant that's changing, but a Brooklyn that's rapidly changing, that we can choose how we orient ourselves and how we grow our future communities.
Right.
Because otherwise, it's just the same old story of gentrification.
Right.
I've seen the strangest faces. I've dealt with all the strangest cases. Thank God I'm not fucking racist. Yeah, I've been the strangest places. Yeah, I've seen the strangest faces. I've dealt with all the strangest cases. Thank God I'm not fucking racist. I see hungry kids standing on the sidewalk. I see homeless people stressing when the sky is down. I see dead body lying on the sidewalk. Mama wants some get white chocolate. I see cops locking up, I see block blocks. On the pop blocks, the gunshot, the other claps. Who for dead or mother dead, who for sister cousin dead, who for uncle auntie just lost them head. Visit they for kill they fit things where them tape in the streets. Young youth nowadays so you watch it. Long gun in a waist, a long knife in a safe. Mama can't sleep in peace cause yeah, I'm in the strangest places. Yeah, I've seen the strangest faces.